Okay.
Yeah, watch the traffic flow and the stoplights and see kind of like, it's like a flow state almost, just like watching the flow of the city and the river and the trees.
Okay. So is it ever a still image, or is there almost always movement in your visualizations?
The only time it would be a still image is when I'm literally picturing a photograph of something.
If you would like to support the efforts and research we are doing here on this podcast, make a donation using the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes, or go to buymeacoffee.com/Shane's Brain. Thank you. Aphantasia is a condition characterized by an inability to visualize mental images in one's mind. If you have just discovered that you or someone you love has aphantasia, or if you're just fascinated by the subject in general and love learning more about it, you are in the right place. The Discovering Your Mind podcast delves into all aspects of the mind's eye, including aphantasia, hyperphantasia, and everything in between. FYI, Kali is in a relationship with Alexander, who I interviewed back in May of 2024. I will be interviewing them together to discuss the dynamics of aphantasia versus hyperphantasia in a committed relationship. So watch for that in the coming month or so. In the meantime, here's Kali. Enjoy. Welcome to the Discovering Your Mind podcast, brought to you by shanesbraindomain.com. I am your host, Shane Williams, also known as Shane's Brain. And today we are talking with the one and only Kali from Canada. How you doing there, Kali?
Hi, really good. The leaves are pretty up here.
Oh, I bet. I'd love to see them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in a deserty type town, and we get a little bit of that, but I'm imagining in Canada it's better. In this episode, we will be referring to what we call the apple graph. If you would like to view the apple graph to play along and better understand what we're talking about, you can find it on shanesbraindomain.com in the Aphantasia and Beyond section. If you are unable to view the apple graph for whatever reason, it is a graph divided into 6 sections. In the number 6 section, there is a very detailed image of a red apple. In the number 5 section, it is the same image but with less detail. Number 4 is still in color but has less detail and more basic shapes instead of detailed hues and gradients. Number 3 is the less detailed apple but in gray tones without the color. Number 2 is a simple outline of the apple. And number 1 is blank, indicating no visualization whatsoever. This is called aphantasia. All right. Well, the first thing I would like you to do is visualize a red apple in your mind.
Okay.
Now go ahead and take a look at this graph here, and which one of those best represents what you saw in your mind's eye?
6 is closest, but
Okay.
the apple is like part of a video in my head. So I can picture an apple, but with like, as much detail as you want. But then I also at the same time get like videos from maybe an apple orchard that I've been to, or, making apple pie or something like that. Like a security station with multiple screens.
Very cool. So does that happen all at once?
Yeah. And like instantaneously as soon as you say the word apple.
Do you pick one to focus on, or do you just kind of have them all there all the time?
It's just kind of like constantly flowing as the conversation moves forward.
Okay.
And I can try to zoom in on one. Lately, I've been working on trying to train my brain to be able to focus on just one at a time. But in the past, I wasn't really able to do that at certain points in my life. It's kind of come and gone depending on really like how my health has been, actually. Well, I have long COVID and that affects the nervous system. So when my nervous system is like in overdrive, then the images are more intense and overlapping. And then when I'm calmer, the images kind of calm down and I have more control over them.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're going to dive more into that. But first, I want to just ask you how and when you found out about aphantasia, because I know you know about that.
Yeah.
And kind of when you discovered that not everybody is the same as you as far as your mind's eye.
Yeah. So, as you know, I have hyperphantasia, or maybe like super hyperphantasia, apparently. But I actually learned about aphantasia before that. I had no idea that what I pictured in my head was at all unusual. I thought everybody had that until my partner, I don't know, it was maybe about a year ago. I think it was when we were learning about hypnosis. We learned that he can't really picture things in his head. And I was kind of rabbit holing that idea and came across the idea of aphantasia and was like, oh, is this like accurate for you? He was like, oh my God, yes, that's what I've been living with my whole life. And I was like, wait a second, like you can't see things in your head? I still don't really understand that. I've had like flashes lately when I've been trying to get my own images under control where like very briefly I can get rid of the images in my head, but it's almost like we're like mirror images of each other. When he gets very calm, he can start to try to get pictures. And when I get very calm, I can start to narrow them down.
All right. So you're familiar with the term the mind's eye?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I would say it overpowers my actual eyes most of the time. Like I have to make an effort to actually focus in and really see what's in front of me in detail rather than seeing what my mind is like superimposing on top of it.
Wow. So does it affect things like driving, things where you need to have your attention on the real world? Does it interplay or affect that?
It doesn't really affect my driving. I think maybe I do get in a flow state when I'm driving, so that kind of calms the mind's eye down and I focus in on what I'm doing. I guess I was lucky that my father was a professional chauffeur, so he taught me how to drive really young. So I have like a lot of muscle memory around driving that allows me to get into a flow state. But doing other stuff, like for example, ways that it's showed up were with my ex-husband. When we would visit houses to potentially buy them, we would walk in and he would literally just see what was in front of us and that was it. And I would see the future of it, of what it could be, what I wanted it to be, what it should be. And that was like all I saw. So I wouldn't necessarily pay attention to, like cracks in the foundation or something like that. I could see them as repaired in my head. And so I really focused on the potential of things. I think maybe that happened to me in dating as well. Focusing on the potential rather than the reality. And that had me going in dating circles for a while until I met Alex.
Wow. So can you picture me thin?
I can picture you however you want to be.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be cool.
Superhero costume, flying through the air.
Awesome. All right. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how vivid and detailed is your mind's eye?
Like 12, but each individual image is at a 12. Because there's so many of them, they aren't necessarily super detailed unless I try to focus in on them.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like with a camera, like you have to have a focus for it, because if you don't have one focus, then nothing is perfectly focused. But if you do focus on one thing, then it kind of makes the rest less focused.
Okay. And that's a little bit the way it is in real life as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But like in your head on top of reality.
Right. Can you tell me in what ways it is like reality and what ways it differs from reality?
It's often a future version of reality or a past version of reality. It's not necessarily like the current moment. Like the current moment plus either the future and or the past. And it can show like multiple versions of the future or multiple moments in the past at the same time as the present. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to play around with this a little bit more. So now I'd like you to think about a chicken in your mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening in your mind?
So I can see my neighbor's chickens. He has about 6 chickens in the coop right next to my fence. So I can see them running around in my backyard. And I can also see the chicken coop that we had on the farm when I was a kid. And then also like other kind of blurry visions of chickens that I've had at other points in my life. I can see myself cooking chicken. All of that is happening at the same time.
Okay. I'm curious about the words we use because I've noticed it affects what happens in people's minds. So the first time I told you to visualize an apple, this time I said, think about a chicken. Was there any difference there? Like there's picture it in your mind, visualize it in your mind, imagine it in your mind, think of it in your mind. Do all of those words have the same effect or are they different in any way?
The only time it would be different is if you told me to like have feelings about a chicken. Maybe chicken's not a good example, but like feel would be the only word that would be different for me than seeing. Because thinking, imagining, visualizing, that's all visual for me. But that actually kind of takes me out of feeling my body in the moment. So there's kind of a dichotomy between the feeling and the visualizing.
So are you saying that your emotions and your visual abilities aren't really attached? They're two separate things? Or do they come together
They
sometimes?
are attached, but there's a difference between like my feelings in the moment and my feelings attached to the past or the present or the future.
Okay.
So if I'm not like intentionally trying to feel what's in my body right now, I don't necessarily feel it. I feel the stuff from the visuals that I'm getting. So that makes like planning, for example, really exciting because I can see these like fantastic futures and I get the like dopamine hit just from visualizing it. And then the actual doing is a different story.
Right. I've heard people say a similar thing that they imagine something so good in the future that when it actually happens, they're a little bit disappointed by the reality of it.
Yeah, that has happened to me a lot. So it's been something I've been trying to work on because it has like positives and negatives to it. It's positive in the sense that it keeps you very optimistic. Like you can always see, oh man, this has so much potential. We can work on this. We can do this. But then there can be a form of perfectionism in that as well that I've been trying to like let go of and tell myself like, okay, it doesn't have to turn out exactly the way I pictured it to be very good.
Right. Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic that I can't relate to at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that doesn't happen to me at all.
Yeah. How do you know what you want to do?
I don't know.
Do you like, because I know for Alex, for example, he just like feels the direction that he feels like he should be going in. It's like an intuition that's pulling him. He doesn't like envision it. So he doesn't necessarily have an idea about where he's going, but he can feel that he's on the right path.
Yeah, it's similar for me. I would say that there's not huge amounts of thought that go into the things I do. I just kind of all right, I got to do something. Might as well do this, kind of a thing. And I wonder if it plays a different role for you ever. You said you get very optimistic. Mm-hmm. I think other people may get very negative, like they see a negative result and it keeps them from trying things or doing new things. I hear a lot of people say that kind of thing, like they're scared, and I never really feel that. How is that for you?
So I kind of envy the not having expectations thing because the expectations can feel kind of like a weight. Like you're either expecting something really good and you're not sure if it's going to work out, or you're expecting something bad and then that doesn't feel good to be having come at you either. The pessimistic side of it is something that I hadn't experienced until the last couple of years. The whole like pandemic lockdown with 2 very young children, then getting long COVID, then getting divorced, then being unable to work. It was like bam, 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 lots of hits that I didn't see coming at all. And it kind of affected my confidence in my ability to like see a positive future and work towards it. So it was a lot of work about like learning to envision positive things, but then let go of them and be okay with other versions of reality that were coming at me.
Okay. Back to the chicken real quick. I want to ask you a few more questions about your chicken or your chickens. So in general, when you visualize, is it all in color?
I'd say the closer in it is, like the more main visions are more colorful, and then the more they're in the background, the less colorful they are. So, but I can like choose to kind of zoom around to different images, and then they become like more colorful and clear when I'm focusing on them.
So would you say that the colors, when you focus in, they're pretty vibrant colors and the background ones are a little more muted? Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah.
Is it in 2D or 3D or both?
4D.
Okay.
Because it's 3D, like I can turn it around in my head and see it from different angles, but also it's a video, so it moves through time as well. And I can move it forward or backward.
Okay. It sounds like most of what you're visualizing are either memories or things you're familiar with. What about manipulating the image? Like, could you take the chicken and make it do something it normally wouldn't do, like take off and fly like a jet or something?
My mind wouldn't do that unless somebody said it to me, like you just did. And then as soon as you say it, I see it.
Awesome.
So I guess it makes it like kind of vulnerable to manipulation in a way. I avoid watching, for example, like really violent movies that are going to manipulate the images in my head, because the violence will get, the visions of that will get stuck in my head, and then it's hard to get them out.
Okay. Can you put a vest and a tie on the chicken?
Yeah.
How does he look?
He looks funny.
I'm jealous.
Like he's ready to go to a party.
All right. Is the image more clear with your eyes open or your eyes closed?
With my eyes open, actually.
Okay. What's the difference? Can you tell a tangible difference between the two?
Like when I close my eyes, there is a layer of blackness, but it's not the only layer. So sometimes it can be like a filter over the image in my head. So it's like there's a kind of a gray filter that goes over the chicken when I close my eyes, but he's still there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When my eyes are open, the images that I get are, like you said, maybe more reality based. But then when my eyes are closed, it's maybe more like dream state images that don't necessarily have the usual like earth logic to them, like gravity and things like that.
Wow. So one thing I've noticed is that, a lot of people who are not aware of any of this will, if they're asking someone to visualize, they'll ask them to close their eyes first. Close your eyes and picture this thing, right? When you're instructed to do that, do you close your eyes or do you keep them open, since you can do it better with your eyes open?
I don't like being told like extensive versions of what I should visualize, because then as soon as they're there, they kind of take on a life of their own. And it's more interesting to see how they evolve on their own than to try to like force them to do what the other person is saying.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. All right. Do you see the chicken in your mind or is it projected out in front of you?
I can see myself sitting in my backyard looking at the chickens next door.
Okay.
And I can see that whole scene from like any angle, but the most prominent angle is from where I would actually be sitting usually.
Okay. Is the image solid or transparent?
Semi-transparent.
Okay.
Like there could be other images behind it or in front of it. Like, have you ever done maybe like paper mache or something like that, where you take a sheet of paper and you get it wet with like glue and water, and then you put it on a piece of paper, and if there's already something on the piece of paper, you can kind of see it through the new paper that you put on top of it?
Right.
That's what the images are like.
And you can just decide which one kind of comes to the forefront?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Yeah. It's really influenced by what people are saying to me.
Okay. If the chicken made a sound, could you hear it in your mind?
Yes.
What about smell? Could you smell the chicken in your mind?
That doesn't come automatically, but I can when you say it.
Okay. And what about touch, the sensation of touch? Could you reach out and touch the chicken and kind of feel that?
Yeah.
And if the chicken got the KFC treatment, could you taste it in your mind?
Well, my mind pictures the whole process to get from where it was to where you just said. So that's not so fun to picture, but then the result in my head is tasty.
They're just words to me.
Alex says the same thing. Like, he'll make a joke about something really awkward, and then he's like, "Oh, you're picturing what I'm saying, aren't you?"
Yep.
Somebody that we don't want to be thinking about doing something ridiculous, and then it's like, "Oh, now that's in my head."
Yeah, my wife and I made the same discovery because she has hyperphantasia as well.
Well, she does too.
And so she would have these, if I would say something gross or something, she would have these huge, what I thought were overreactions to it, right? But then I realized she's seeing it, she's smelling it, she's tasting it, right? Like
exactly.
And to me, it's just a word.
Like wordplay.
So,
yeah. He didn't understand why sometimes I didn't like some of his jokes. Now he does.
Right.
Yeah, and I've had to learn to like watch my language as well, because if I say like, "Oh, what do you picture us doing this weekend?" or something like that, like he has no answer to that. But if I ask him, "What do you want to do this weekend?" that's very different.
Right. You just made me think of something that I always struggled with, like in job interviews, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
Like when somebody asks that to you, what happens? Because my mind just goes blank. I'm like, I have no idea. But what does that happen to you?
Well, I already have like videos in my head of where I want to be. And so I just kind of zoom in to that point in the timeline of the video. Like they could ask me, "Where do you want to be in a month?" And I'd be like, "Okay, that's what it's showing me in a month." "Where do you want to be 5 years?" "That's what it's showing me 10 years. I basically have like the whole video. Some parts of it are clearer than others. So if you ask me where I want to be in 45 years, that might be harder, but there's still a vision there.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. I'm so glad I asked that.
Right. Now I understand why people have trouble answering that.
Yeah, I've always had a really hard time with that question.
Okay. But I think that actually, like, there's really an advantage to that, because then you don't get disappointed by it not happening. And I think, like, maybe this is what I've seen with Alex, for example. Like, he's way more able to go with the flow and not have to recalibrate his expectations to the reality of what's happening.
All right. A couple more little things I want you to visualize and see what happens. I'd like you to visualize any room at all.
Okay.
Can you zoom outside the room and visualize the entire exterior of the building?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about the entire neighborhood?
Yeah.
What about the entire city?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can, just describe a little bit what was happening in your mind as I asked you those things. Like
a movie camera being in the room and then panning back to being outside the house, but like on a film set where there's no wall to stop you from moving back. Okay. And then when you said the city, the camera like went up and I could see like bird's eye view of the city that I live in, and so on. It's like a panning. Okay. How accurate do you think it was? Do you know the city well enough that you feel like it was kind of accurate, or does your mind kind of fill things in? Well, like I said earlier, I really like driving and I like maps. And so whenever I even think about going to a new city, I really want to like look at the map ahead of time and situate things in my head before I get there so that I'm oriented as soon as I get there. Like the more I drive around the city that I live in, the more oriented I feel, because I don't have blanks in my head of certain areas. But yeah, if you zoom out far enough, like let's say province level, then there's a lot more blanks. Okay. So you said earlier that you kind of like not too much detail of what to actually visualize so that you can kind of observe what's happening. So can you do that like with the city? Could you just kind of sit there for a minute and just kind of observe what's happening
and maybe see a bird fly by or a squirrel go up a tree or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, watch the traffic flow and the stoplights and see kind of like, it's like a flow state almost, just like watching the flow of the city and the river and the trees.
Okay. So is it ever a still image or is there almost always movement in your visualizations?
The only time it would be a still image is when I'm literally picturing a photograph of something.
Okay, next one. I'd like you to visualize 3 blue dots.
Okay.
Now visualize 9 blue dots.
Okay.
Now visualize 100 blue dots.
That's harder. Okay.
Now visualize 1,000 blue dots.
Okay.
Okay. Could you do that? Okay. What was happening in your mind on that one?
3 and 9 show up pretty immediately. I went from 9 to 100, like I was zooming out, but my brain had to kind of calculate how far to zoom out to get like a 10 by 10 square of dots.
Okay.
Otherwise, I felt kind of lost in the sea of dots.
And were you able to do 1,000 kind of the same way, or did it get overwhelming?
It started to feel like a lot of dots, but and I was like kind of in them, looking around at them. I told myself like the math for that, like what times what is 1,000, and then I could picture that number of rows and that number of rows and that number of columns, and that's 1,000.
Okay, so it's pretty organized.
But if you told me like 1,087, that would be a lot harder. Like I would have to get the block of 1,000 and then like the block of 80 and then the block of 7. But then I'd have to like look at the 1,000 and then in my head turn to the 80 and in my head turn to the 7.
Oh, I love these descriptions. That's awesome.
Would you be able to picture numbers of dots? Like how does that show up for you? I don't have any idea what average is for this.
For me, it's nothing. I have zero ability to visualize any dots at all.
Okay.
There's nothing. It's not something I can do in any way.
You would want like real visual input, like you would want to draw the dots or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I'm a graphic designer. I would have to put them up on the screen to see them in any way or draw them out. Yeah. It's very reality based.
That's really interesting because I've tried to do graphic design and I've found it frustrating because it's really hard to get the image on the screen to fit with the image in my head.
Share the gift of laughter with your children and grandchildren with books full of funny poetry and silly stories by Shane D. Williams, available on shanesbraindomain.com.
How much of your visualization is what you choose to visualize, and how much of it is on autopilot and you're simply observing what's there?
In the past, before I got sick and my nervous system became overwhelmed, it was easier to choose what was being visualized. So I was able to direct it a lot more. And part of the brain fog of long COVID has been that the images have taken on more life of their own, which can be interesting, but it can also be disorienting when I'm trying to be in the moment where I am now. But all these images from the past and the future are coming at me in my head. And it's a form of PTSD currently, but it's getting better.
Okay. What about effort? Does effort play a role in how well you can visualize something?
It can backfire. Like if I try to intentionally black stuff out, it takes like all my concentration to like hold it back. It's like holding back a wall of water, you know?
Really?
But if instead I can choose to like try to focus on something pleasant that's going on right now, then that can just naturally kind of push the other stuff back without me having to make the effort to do it. And I learned recently that this might actually be a form of like late acquired dyslexia, because we're suspecting that my son is dyslexic. And so a friend told me about this method of dyslexia called the Davis method, I think, because dyslexia, part of the problem comes from children being able to see the letters in their heads, but the letters can be like upside down or backwards or in different orders. because they have very strong visuals that they can't necessarily control. And so with the Davis method, it teaches you how to like keep your body relaxed and focus on what you're actually seeing in front of you rather than trying to like force the other visuals out. It's a relaxation-based method. So it's kind of a new method to me. I read a book about it last week and I've been practicing. I think he basically asks you to like fix your perspective kind of behind and above your head a little bit. And there's a whole method around figuring out the ideal point for each person. And then you look at the world through that angle rather than like lots of different angles at the same time.
That makes zero sense to me. But it's fascinating nonetheless. Wow.
I think the Matrix came up when Alex and I were talking about this. He was talking about how apparently the Matrix was kind of groundbreaking because it had many different camera angles at the same time. And then they were all stitched together and it kind of like went around like this. And I was like, oh, is that why people liked that movie? Because to me, like, I can do that in my head. I don't need a movie to do it for me. So I never really understood what was so interesting about that versus like maybe in a normal level of Fantasia head, it's like one camera angle and it just goes wherever you go.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Very cool. Thank you for all these details. I'm loving it. Can you hold the mental images for as long as you want, or are they fleeting?
They're usually pretty fleeting. Again, it has to do with, I think, my level of relaxation and focus, which often has to do with the regulation of the nervous system and a feeling of like safety and presence. And the more safe and grounded I feel, the more I can control what the images do.
Okay. So would you say like your energy or your mood affects that as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. In general, when you close your eyes, what do you see?
Infinity.
Really?
Like everything all at once. Just like this big montage of memories and hopes, and maybe also the echo of what I just was seeing with my eyes before I closed them.
Does that make it difficult to fall asleep?
Yeah, I like to listen to audiobooks before I try to fall asleep. So I learned that it's a technique used to prevent PTSD. If you play a game like Tetris, something about it makes it so that negative images don't stick in your head, like they don't become a memory as much. And so I like to like listen to a calming audiobook and play a slow version of Tetris to calm my mind down, because it gives me something calm to think about and something concrete to visualize. Then it's a relaxing way to let go of the other stuff.
What does the phrase daydreaming mean to you?
Letting go of trying to control the images and just letting them really do their own thing and just seeing what comes to me.
All right. Can you visualize to the extent that it completely takes you out of your reality?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an example?
If I'm really kind of daydreaming and letting the images go, I won't necessarily hear someone talking to me. Like I'll hear the noise and then it'll take me a second to like snap out of it and be like, oh, they were talking to me. Okay, like switch the focus. I guess I just thought that was that way for everyone, but maybe not.
Nothing is that way for everyone. I'm confident in saying that.
Apparently.
Yeah. Do you feel like your visualization changes over the years? Like, for example, was it more vivid or less vivid as a child?
I think it was less overactive, but just as vivid when I was a kid. Like I could see my life ahead of me. I could see what I wanted. I could see where I wanted to be. Sometimes I've even gotten like what feel like glimpses of the future where an image comes to me and then, you know, in the future it ends up playing out, but it doesn't feel like I made that image up. It feels like I received it and it was like a premonition and then it ends up happening.
Okay. That is cool. And it sounds like long COVID has affected it quite a bit as well, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like continuing to work on some of these methods I've been experimenting with in addition to the other like nervous system regulation stuff, so that I can kind of calm it down a little bit more, so that it's more what I want it to be and less distracting.
So we've talked quite a bit about the mind's eye. I want to shift now a little bit more to the mind's ear. The phrase the mind's ear refers to the ability to hear something in one's mind. It suggests a mental sensation of sound, such as a noise, a voice, or music that is not physically present. So based on that definition, do you feel like you have a mind's ear?
No, only through my mind's eye. Like if I can visualize a memory, then I can sometimes access the sounds that go with it. But I rarely have just like sounds that show up on their own. It happens occasionally. But for example, like if I want to remember a song, I would have to remember like a scene that the song was in, and then the song might come back to me. Or I would have to be able to visualize the lyrics, and then I could remember the melody.
So on a scale from 1 to 10 on that one, how would you say your
mind's ear?
Yeah, your mind's ear is. Does it even rate on the scale on that?
Maybe a 2.
Okay. So do you have an inner monologue?
Not really. I have an inner visualogue. And sometimes there are thoughts with words that go along with that.
All right. So again, with the different words we use, it's either an inner monologue or it's an inner voice or inner dialogue or self-talk. Do any of those other phrases resonate with you at all? And in what way?
I can try to talk to myself, but it shows up as much as like visuals of the words as it does sounds in my head. Like I can picture the words being typed or handwritten or just see the letters show up in my mind. Then sometimes I think the exception that kind of confirms all of that is sometimes I will get like a very clear auditory clips that just like show up in my head. And that's been happening more the last couple of years. So it feels like a sort of inner wisdom that breaks through sometimes, where I'll suddenly just hear this message that's like instructions to me about how to better navigate the situation that I'm in or something like that. Recently, so I've been working, like I said, on my nervous system regulation. So I've been trying to like sit out on my back porch by myself at night and just enjoy like the calm of the evening in kind of a suburban backyard. And sometimes I'll hear noises, around in the neighborhood. And sometimes you recognize them, sometimes you don't. And the other night I was like feeling pretty calm. And then I heard like a bang off to my right. And I was like, oh, there should not be a noise coming from over there. And then I looked over and it was actually my cat who was at an open window and he was trying to like see me. So I was like, okay, there's no threat. And then this thought came into my head of the noise is coming from inside. And like when I heard that sentence, the noise is coming from inside, it was like multi-layered, because it was, yes, literally the noise is coming from inside of my house. The cat, I don't need to be afraid of it. But also it was telling me that like a lot of my worries that I have these days, like the noise is coming from inside. It's coming from your own anxiety in your head. Like your external situation is actually more, it's less threatening than it feels to you.
I love that. That is so cool. I love that because I've never heard anybody describe it quite like that before, where your inner voice or monologue or whatever is just appearing in text in either typewriting or written words. That is so cool.
Yeah, it actually really, I think, helped me when I learned how to type, because then when I was trying to picture words and remember spelling and things like that, I could just see the type pattern in my head on a keyboard and know how it was spelled.
That is such an advantage, man. When I found out some of the things my wife could do like that, I accused her of cheating. Because it kind of sounds like cheating to me.
Yeah, what I was reading in this book about dyslexia was that dyslexic kids sometimes actually will learn how to recognize words in ways like that are like not the way that you're supposed to learn to read. And then when they're trying to be taught phonics or something like that, they can get very frustrated because that's not how they taught themselves to recognize words. And then that's where it becomes considered a learning disability. But I think if you can stay grounded, then it's less of a disability and more just a different way of processing.
All right. Do you play out conversations in your head?
More than I would like. Yeah.
So if you can't really hear very much or very well, how does that work?
I picture the person and the words coming out of their mouth. And
You picture the words.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double layered thing where maybe even a little bit of lip reading, because I realized when the pandemic started and we all started wearing masks, that suddenly I couldn't understand what people were saying without seeing their lips. So in my head, I can see the person, I can see their lips moving, I can see like written words of what they're saying. And that's kind of how I imagine conversations.
Ah, that is amazing.
I don't know how would you do that? Do you imagine conversations?
Yeah, but they're just thought based, and I don't know how to explain what a thought is to me. It's just a quiet thinking of whatever. There's no visual to it. There's no sound to it. It's just a thought.
Can you like hear the words in your head?
No.
Oh, interesting. I can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So this is why I love interviewing anybody and everybody who's willing to do it, because it just always fascinates me how different everybody is. Like, you learned how to read lips because your visualization doesn't really have sound attached to it.
Yeah.
Right? I've never heard anything like that before, and it's so awesome. I just love hearing these details.
Yeah, it's fascinating to like try to get an understanding of the different perspectives that people have on the same thing. I think that's why in the past that used to come out in being fascinated by other cultures. There's the stereotypical example of like maybe northern indigenous cultures would have 20 words for snow, and a culture on the equator would have one word for snow. And so in my head, that shows up as like the 20 words for snow would each give a different visual for the snow. And so it gives like a finesse in the understanding of a concept.
One of the things that this has done for me, finding, like I said, all of the differences and all the nuances, it really helps me just not judge other people,
Exactly.
Because there's no way I can possibly understand in any way what it's like to be you or anyone else. So I'm just going to let everybody be who they are.
Yeah, I found that, like, for example, I went through a phase of being really interested in personality types for the same kind of reason, because it helped me understand that people could have very different reactions to the same situation, and it helps you understand their logic behind how they got there, rather than just being like, what is that person thinking?
Right.
Oh, okay. In their brain functioning, that's the obvious conclusion. But I would go a different path than learning. And I think this is the most important thing I learned from like personality psychology, was that no type is better than any other type. They're just like complementary ways of being.
Right. It takes you out of this place where a lot of people get is I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And because they can only see this one narrow way of looking at something, and any other way of looking at it just seems stupid or ridiculous.
We can be saying two different things and we can both not be wrong.
Right. Yeah. Are your thoughts up close and personal, or distant and vague, or something else? How would you describe your thoughts?
It runs the whole spectrum, because the images are like layered on top of each other. There's always layers that are closer and more personal or vivid, and other layers that are further in the background and more detached.
How would you describe how your mind stores information?
Visually.
Would you say that there's like rooms or compartments in your mind?
No, I'd say it's almost like search based, where like you say a word like apple and it pulls up all the apple memories. And then like Google results, and then you kind of scan through the results and try to find the one that you were looking for.
Does your mind feel like it's an area or a space, like some place you can go? or anything like that?
Yeah, I can like either kind of let myself go into it mentally or try to pull myself out of it mentally.
Would you say it's maybe kind of a separate world, a different world that you could enter into?
It's not separate, it's additional.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like augmented reality.
All right. Last question. If you woke up tomorrow and had aphantasia, how do you think it would affect your life?
I think I would feel more relaxed, but more lost. Because lately I've been having more trouble picturing my future, and that feels really disorienting. I felt like more lost than I used to, but also more open to things happening that are beyond what I would assume or imagine. And the more I've opened myself up to things like that, the more cool, surprising things happen.
All right. Very good. I love it. Is there anything else you would like to say before we sign off?
No, thank you for doing this kind of show. It's always fascinating to explore the different perspectives among humans. There's so much variety that a lot of the time we're not even aware exists. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for your time and for your answers. I really enjoyed it. It's always a lot of fun for me to try and comprehend how other people's minds are working. And yours is certainly a very fascinating one to me. So I really appreciate it.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, follow, and engage with us, and share it with your friends and family as we continue to explore this fascinating subject. For additional information about this episode or Shane's Brain, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening to the Discovering Your Mind podcast. You are beautifully unique.